Yeah, there's some new automatic settings that wants the video to be vertical.
Oh, I bet it has to do with YouTube Shorts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because everything's vertical on that. We for so long we're like, you're not allowed to go okay, this is a real tangent. Hi, welcome back. Welcome back to the Reunion Cardigan Knit Along.
Yeah.
This is week 4. And we are very excited to be here. I have it's very warm in our city this week.
And in my apartment.
And
it's
yes.
not too bad.
No. It's livable as we are dressed, which is why I am not wearing my finished sweater.
It's so cute.
Finished except I haven't done the buttons yet, but that's okay.
Right.
The buttons don't count.
I love this yarn. This is the Mota, right?
This is the Mota, the Wool Dreamers Mota. It's really light.
So squishy.
And I put a fan on it. We'll talk about wet blocking later to dry it off before I came over tonight so that I actually have something to show.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so I am very excited about that.
And I'm still working on mine. I knit on it every evening, and I'm still working on the body because I want to make mine a little longer.
Yes. Mine is super cropped, but that's what I was going for.
Yeah.
It's almost like cheating. Stop with half a sweater.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. Tonight we are going to talk about, what are we going to talk about? Sleeves. We are going to talk about sleeves. Last week we jumped ahead a little bit in the pattern and we did the button band so that you wouldn't have as much fabric flopping around.
We had a few reasons.
Yes, you can go back and watch me rant about button bands and
fabric
sleeves.
Flopping.
And there was other stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, we did our button band, which is great, and now we're going to work on our sleeves, which is really the last big bit left in the sweater, and then you're home free.
Yeah.
Unless you get stuck on Sleeve Island, which if you've never knit a sweater before, it's okay. It happens to all of us. It happened to me knitting this sweater.
It does go pretty fast though. Like it is thicker yarn, so it'll go faster than a fingering weight sweater.
Oh yes, it's all in the mind.
But it's all in the mind. Definitely a psychological thing for sure.
Comment.
So Melanie is just finishing the button band and then buttons to sew on. Excellent.
We're gonna talk about that tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we dive in?
We are going to dive in. We're going to talk about
sleeves.
The sleeves first.
Yes. Talk about sleeves. And then Caitlin is going to take the reins of the demo this evening and show you all how to sew a button on without strangling your work or tossing it out of the window. And also a quick recap of a knit two together and the slip knit.
Yeah, because you're going to be doing that on the sleeves.
Exactly. Okay, so can we use your sweater, Caitlin, to demonstrate where you're going to go back and pick up your work from?
So mine is still on needles, so just don't mind that.
Yeah. All right, so here we have a sleeve.
So this is what my sleeve looks like. This down here is the underarm, and this is the top part. So what you are going to do...
Where are your live stitches?
My live stitches are along the whole top here, and I put a nice long waist yarn here so that I can try it on and stretch it out and do all that kind of stuff. So when you are picking up these stitches, what I do is before I cut the yarn out, I make sure that my needle is going in.
Do you want like a hook or something to showcase?
Okay.
Just the tip of the hook?
Yeah. This might be easier flat. Oops. Yeah, it might be easier flat. But if you can see, your yarn is going through these stitches here. So you're basically going to be putting your needle exactly where the yarn is. So following the path of the yarn. And you might have to do a little bit of fiddling because when you stretch your sweater, sometimes your yarn will kind of squeak back in.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, it kind of like sinks
it
back in.
It almost drops, and that's why you have your yarn in there, so that if it drops, you can pull it back up.
Exactly. So what I usually do is I just give it a little bit of a tug to kind of lay it flat, and then it will those stitches will kind of pull back out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, there's a siren.
Mhm.
So when we put the lifeline in, or when we put the scrap yarn in, we
Mhm.
were following the path of the needle and replacing it with the yarn.
Mhm.
And now we're doing the reverse. We're taking the needle to follow the path of the yarn to have all our stitches back from there.
Mhm. Yes, barber cords, super handy. I've never tried them.
I have.
Yeah.
I didn't for this.
Okay.
But I have.
Yeah. So Melanie's talking about these. They're kind of like a rubber cord,
Yeah.
and you just pop them onto the ends of your needles. Right?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
She says one.
Just
she
in
brought one.
case
Yeah.
of instead
Yeah.
of waste yarn,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And congratulations, Susie. Susie says, all done, now blogging. Blocking.
Blocking.
Frogged button band only once. Well done.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, you're gonna run your needle back through those live stitches, and then you are going to pick up. You are going to pick up and knit stitches along the underarm.
And just like when we were picking up stitches last week along the back neck, we were picking up sort of right into like one per column of stitches, and it's very similarly going to be the same thing. The number that they tell you to pick up is very similarly going to correspond to however many stitches you bound off at the bottom.
Yeah,
or
so
cast on.
so it's nice and easy to see where, and I'll show you maybe when I do my demo, I'll just, so you can see a better view of where I'm putting my needle in to pick up those underarm stitches, because I also pick up a few extra stitches. Sometimes it'll tell you to pick up extra stitches.
This one does not.
This one does not. So, so there's two ways you can do it. You can just go as is, whatever the pattern tells you to do. And then at the end, when you weave in your yarn,
That's what I did.
when you weave in your ends, you'll have a little bit of a hole to
Yeah.
stitch up.
Yeah.
And I hate doing that. It's so annoying.
I have a tendency to forget if I've picked up extra stitches, and so that's why I just do the whatever, and then I don't mind weaving in ends and,
Yeah.
and darkening and
And
whatnot.
whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
So what I do is, it depends on, I usually just wing it, because sometimes there will be a very large gap. I kind of
Yeah.
pick up what feels right. I know that's not
Well, it's
great
sort of
advice,
like-
but if you look at it, I'll lay it down flat when we do our demo. If you look at it, you can kind of see like how many stitches would fit here.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. So
Even distribution,
yeah.
with the context of all the stitches you've already picked up.
Exactly. So let's say I add on 2 stitches, I pick up between the area. Then on my first round, or my second round sometimes,
Yeah.
depends, I will knit 2 together the amount of times I've added stitches. So if I've added 2 stitches
On either side.
on either side, then I would knit together 4 times. Right?
No.
I'd
Yes.
knit 2
yes.
together
Sorry.
4 times.
In total. Oh my god. 2 on
In
either
total.
side.
Yeah. And
Oh, Tuesday nights.
so sometimes I would do that. I would do a knit 2 together on the first round, and then I would do another knit 2 together on the next round, just depending on how it looks.
Yeah. If
You
you
know?
have, if one stitch takes up a lot of space,
Mm-hmm.
if you knit 2 together twice back to back, that's going to be quite a cinch.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to kind of space it out over like one
Yeah.
or more rows. The idea is that you're picking up those extra stitches, so you have to get rid of them kind of in a timely fashion before you proceed to the rest of your
Yeah.
sleeve.
Otherwise, your sleeve is going to be a lot bigger than you would like it to be. So that is my little tip, and then I don't have to do a lot of fussing at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I totally see your point.
And you can also write it down, like you
Yeah.
know, put a little sticky,
Throwing me under the bus.
put a little sticky or
Yeah.
a stitch, an extra stitch marker or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my tip for you.
Okay.
So Melanie's, yes, I'm so pleased with my cardigan. First garment that I've knit that fits. That's awesome. And how many are you gonna knit? You gonna knit a bunch more?
7 trillion. Last night, I was going to bed and I weighed my yarn to make sure that I could calculate from my bed how much yarn I used, and then look at my stash on Ravelry to figure out what I could use for another one.
It's so funny to me that you say that you're lazy, and yet you've like cataloged you've spent so much time cataloging all of your yarn.
So that I can browse it from bed.
It's like, yeah. Oh my
Congratulations,
God.
Melanie.
So
I'm really happy to hear that. And you should totally go back and do some of the other knit ones.
Yeah, well, you'll have to wear it in the store so you can see it.
Okay, we keep getting distracted, but we're talking sleeves.
Yes.
Okay, so once you've got all your stitches on, you'll see that there is like a count for how many should be on your needles after you've picked them all up. Quick note that your beginning of round marker, as established in that first paragraph, is going to be right in the middle of where you picked up. So you're going to pick up some stitches, knit the sleeve, and then pick up some more, and that's where your mark is going to be. And that's because all of your decreases are going to go right along your underarm where people are least likely to see it.
Yeah, like the center.
The under center of
the
your
center of the armpit.
Yes,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. That's where your mark is going to be, because all of your decreases are going to be aligned up quite nicely around that
Sometimes
marker.
I also will place a locking stitch marker in the center of my armpit section, just so that I can make sure that I'm picking up stitches evenly on both sides, because it'll be like pick up 12 stitches and then I'll know I'm doing 6 on either side.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and then you've got your sleeve decreases, which I actually quite like the way that this is written, because it's quite easy to figure out. You're going to do 4, okay, well it is technically easy to figure out. Here's the big debate. If it says repeat decrease round every X number of rounds, does that mean that the decrease round is considered one of those rounds, or you need to knit that many rounds in between decreases? And I would say, from personal experience, maybe put that number of rows in between your decreases, because I counted one because I was feeling lazy and wanted to do less knitting. And my sleeve, it fits, but it is like 0 ease sleeve.
Okay.
So if you want your sleeve to not be quite so like sharply and fittedly tapered, then I would say if your instruction is knit your decrease round every 5 rows, I would do a decrease row, knit 5 rows, do a decrease row, knit 5 rows, and so forth.
Or whatever rows it tells you.
I don't think that's in there.
Yeah, I don't know. That makes sense.
Oh.
Yeah, because if you don't want it to be as fitted.
Yeah, it's a very chicken and eggy thing. And because of the vibe that I was going for, it totally worked. But
yeah,
if you're going for more of a grandpa cardigan, you might want to add a little bit more space in between.
Yeah, and what do you think about? So if people are going to lengthen their sleeves, which I am going to do.
Yes.
The sweater kind of is meant to end. It's a bracelet length.
Yeah.
Or 3/4 length.
Yeah. One of those. I'm just going to pick up the reference picture. I'm also going to try my sleeve on so people can see where I stopped.
Yeah.
It's bracelet. Yeah, it's 3/4. I think it's supposed to end here.
Okay, that's 3/4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I am going to do is I'm going to do all those decreases as it's written.
Yeah.
And then when I'm done, I'm just going to knit straight.
Yeah.
A little bit longer until I know, what am I trying to say? Until I am that much farther away from the ribbing.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I
They
can't
give
remember how
you, they say a certain amount of length shorter than your desired length, so go to that point, and then you're going to add that extra ribbing. If you want a larger ribbing, then stop earlier and do more ribbing.
Yeah, so I'm not going to do anything differently. I'm just going to knit a little bit longer after I'm done my decreases.
All right.
Yeah.
So I stopped my sweater sleeve. I don't know, somewhere
so
about there. I've not trimmed my ends yet. Fresh from the blocking board.
Beautiful.
So I actually stopped my decreases on my knitting before it told me to in the pattern.
Okay.
I got to a length where I was like, yeah, this good. And I just stopped and switched to my ribbing. So I think that's quite nice about this is that you could, if you have like a really tapered forearm, You could always continue sort of in pattern, so
Mhm.
it gives you like a set number of rows between your decreases. You could continue that pattern if you still want it to be tapered. I like Caitlin's idea of just having like a little bit more
Mhm.
fabric around there so you can push it up if you've got a watch or something.
Yeah.
Mom's always wearing her Fitbit, so.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about sleeves a lot in the Felix
Yes.
and in the ranunculus. We did
yeah.
talk about sleeves quite a bit.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I suggested was knitting. I like a nice long section of ribbing.
Uh-huh.
So that's another thing I might do is instead of doing like, what is it, like
1.5
to 2 inches of ribbing, I might make it a little bit longer.
Mhm.
If you are someone who folds up your sleeves, or
Mm.
like I like to roll them up, but I don't like rolling up sweater sleeves because it stretches it out a little
Yeah.
bit. So I like to have a little bit of extra ribbing, and then I just kind of fold it over,
Mm.
and then, you know, when I'm washing dishes
Yeah.
or that kind of thing,
Yes.
I'm not, because otherwise I'm just gonna be rolling it up and stretching it out.
Whereas I just stopped mine where they would be rolled to.
Yeah,
Ta-da!
that works
Okay.
too.
Yeah, and also just when you're about to switch to that ribbing, make sure that you switch your needle sizes,
Mhm.
again for the same reason that we were doing all that other ribbing on the smaller needle. Ribbing has a tendency to flare if you knit it on the same size as the rest of your piece, whether it be a hat or a sweater.
Yeah.
So duck down a needle size. Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's it. Does anyone have any burning sleevey questions before we move on to buttons?
Mm-hmm. We'll give it a minute.
Yeah, and Caitlin will demonstrate stuff. Ooh, buttons.
Buttons.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about button considerations before we start demoing?
Yeah, we could. We could. It called for 6 buttons, correct?
It did, but as we said last week, you don't have to do the full 6, or you could do more.
Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, it was 3/4 inch buttons.
Mm-hmm.
So we have,
Buttons.
we did choose a larger button for the demo just because it's easier to see.
Yes.
Um,
But I will show you. The shop has these awesome buttons.
Mhm.
I freaked out when I saw them.
my
And they
gosh.
all really seem to correspond really, really well to the colors of the Mota in particular.
yeah.
Because check this out. Button,
Oh,
sweater.
that's so nice.
I'm
I
so
love it.
jazzed. So that's what I'm going to do when I go home tonight.
Nice.
Let's pop some buttons.
I have, and maybe I already talked about this. I have some wood slices that I made at the cottage a couple years ago, and I've been meaning to drill some holes in them.
That is
Make my own buttons.
Ooh.
But I need a friend with a drill press.
Oh, it is not me. I am not that friend.
No.
I've used a saw once and it was a disaster.
Yeah.
So when you are sewing your buttons on,
Mm-hmm.
the buttons that I got from the shop, these buttons, they all have fairly small holes, and you might be thinking, but guys, how do I fit this enormous piece of yarn into such a tiny little hole, and more than once, because you don't just want to do one
Yeah.
pass through to
Yeah.
tighten your button.
I would use, so I use DMC for all of my button needs. Because you can get it in any color. You've
Yes.
got like 500 colors.
Yeah, ask me how I know.
Ask me how I know. So 500 colors, you can use one strand or you can use all 6 strands. And that is my preference.
That's the DMC embroidery floss. Yeah.
Yep. The other thing you can use is, this is a mending
Yeah.
wool. It's very fine.
It's like wool and nylon.
Yeah. We don't have this at the store. This is for mending socks, but
Yeah.
it's a nice thin weight. You could also use coordinate thread. It's like a thicker thread.
Is that the... What, which
Yeah,
one is
it comes on a spool. It's near our Metler thread.
that? Okay, yes.
It's just a little bit
It's
thicker.
like the 30 count.
30 weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a 30 weight.
Yeah.
Or you could also use fingering weight yarn.
Yes,
Emily
if you've got
suggested,
leftover sock yarn.
or lace weight yarn.
Yeah.
Or sashiko thread.
Yeah, that's
You know, you might have some left over.
Or even just like 2 or 3 strands of the polyester sewing thread.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just you'll just have to go through it more times.
Yeah. And when you're thinking about what to use, I would stay away from something that is single ply
Mm-hmm.
because that is not as strong. And then the yarn that I used, all of my ends have little knots telling me what needle I used. But because I used a woolen spun yarn, even if it was a lot finer, it doesn't have a lot of like tear strength. So if you're tying a strong knot like you want for a
Right.
button, you might actually end up tearing your thread. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, that took nothing.
Yeah.
I just tore that off.
Once it's knit into a fabric,
It's fine.
like, you know.
Yeah, well, because I'm not going to be tying my sweater into a knot and then,
Yeah.
even then I think it'd be fine. But I have definitely run into problems when like I've been finishing a hat
Yeah.
in a woolen spun and trying to get that center pull in, and then I'm like, no, my end.
So
Yeah.
Susie says she used one strand of her yarn, and it depends on your yarn. But I have tried that. I tried that for, I don't know what I was doing with it, but I found it ripped very easily because essentially it's a single ply, right?
Yeah.
When you separate the plies, they aren't as strong.
So maybe give you whatever you're going to use, like the
Yeah.
snap test, like
Yeah.
you do in weaving. 2 hands maybe like this far apart so that you're not holding the full staple length, and then snap it apart.
Yeah.
And if it pulls apart, if it
Yeah.
like drifts apart, not good. If it fully snaps or it stays rigid, you're good.
Because that's a part of your sweater that's going to be getting a lot of wear, a lot of like pulling and stretching. Whereas when it's all knit into a fabric, it's homogeneous and strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Was there anything we wanted to talk about before we go to the demo?
I don't think so. We could talk about wet blocking afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So
It's Caitlin's turn to go
my
into the
gosh.
chair. The chair of cheer. Sorry, that's my family's Christmas indulgence every year. We watch.
okay, so I'm doing
You're gonna do the knit two together. and
knit two
slip slip.
together. Yeah. And then the other one was the buttons.
The buttons. And that's it.
Yep.
Oh,
and I'm
and
gonna show my
up sleeves.
Yeah, I'm gonna show my armpits.
Yeah. Okay.
You guys don't want to see my armpits.
Okay, that's good. Here, armpits, armpits.
And you can tell me if you
Yeah.
can.
You are in frame.
Okay. Alrighty. So I'm just gonna knit for a couple stitches. These are really long needles.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I've been suffering with them.
You're good? We're good
yeah,
here?
You're
Okay.
Good, you're good.
Alright, so I'll just do I'm not used to knitting with
No,
straights.
that's just it. Folks have asked me like, what? You don't buy straights?
my
I'm like, I never
gosh.
buy straight needles.
That's
I
so
never
funny.
Circulars.
Okay, so for knit two together, it's literally just as simple as though you're going to knit one stitch, but you've got two. So you're going to go in to both of them, and you're going to knit them together, and then let them both pop off, just like that. And if you ever need to undo that,
Yeah. Oh yes.
which I often do.
Oh. Extra lesson from
Yeah,
Caitlin this
can you
evening.
see in there?
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes, like if I do the knit two together to close up those extra stitches, sometimes I don't like where I did it.
Okay.
So I go back in, I follow where the yarn has gone in, so you can kind of see that piece pulling. So I go right back in there, and
There
I
you go.
pull it off the needle.
Yeah.
There. And then SSK.
SSK,
Okay. So
which is another. Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. It's another decrease, and it slants in a different direction, so they look very nice mirrored against each other
yes.
around your marker.
Yeah, they kind of angle
Yeah.
angle towards each other or away from each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to go in as if to knit to the first stitch, slip, and then you're going to do the same on the second one. So that's the slip, slip, and then you're going to go in backwards, and then you're going to knit those together
Through the back loop.
through the back loop. So it looks a little bit different from the knit two together. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is what knit two together and SSK look like. Then I was going to show the underarms. Yes, here you go.
Thank you. I'll take
Okay.
my awkward needles away from you.
I know. I was like, I felt like I was holding it up so high.
I like this part. I like this part where I just hand you things. And you just
trying to decide which armpit's going to be easier to show.
That one.
This one.
because
Okay.
it's there.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so can we see what I'm talking about a little bit closer?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, so here is the armpit. Okay, and then this is the space that I was talking about that's going to end up as a hole. Okay, so these are the stitches that you are going to pick up from your waste yarn, and then here is where you're going to start picking up for your underarm. And this little space right here is where you'll have a hole if you decide you just knit it as is, which is fine. But what I do, and do you have, I'm gonna grab one of my knitting needles.
Do you want one of my ginormous
No, I'm
clumsy
gonna get a
ones?
small one.
Okay.
It'll be a little bit easier.
I am gonna sit here and look pretty, but it's such a shame nobody can see me. It's okay, she's coming back.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we've officially vetoed the ginormous knitting.
Yeah, I can't, yeah, it feels so strange. Okay, I do need some yarn
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Shoop. Take the end of that. I mean, it is
Excellent.
poorly chosen because it is exactly the same color.
Okay, so when we are doing the underarm stitches, picking up the underarm stitches, what I look for is the columns here. Okay, so what I usually do is I pick up at the top of the column. There is a little, it's not quite a V, it's kind of like a couple of garter bumps.
Yeah.
Right? So what I usually do is I pick both of those up. Oops. Boop. Boop. And then
So I was watching you on the screen, which is slightly delayed, and I was like, something keeps happening. But
I know.
I don't know what's going wrong.
It's-
She keeps going,
there's
oops.
a delay.
It's
There's
not
a
oops.
delay.
Boop.
There we go. And you can see it kind of lines up. It's going to line up with that
Yeah.
row of V's.
Mhm.
Just like that.
Yeah.
I'll just do another one. So you can see there's two. I'm picking up two legs of yarn, for lack of a better
No,
term.
legs is correct. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I use
There we
legs.
go. So you can see it kind of lines up nicely there. Okay. And then for the underarm hole, what I would probably do here, after I pick up my my waste yarn stitches, I would probably pick one up right here. And probably right here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's enough of a gap there that you probably need to.
I would probably pick up two. And then pick up all the rest of them, knit that first round, and I would, when I knit two together, I'm going to knit probably the last stitch with this first extra, and I'm going to knit this one together with my first picked up underarm stitch.
Yeah.
And that'll decrease those two.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I would do.
So that is what I would do.
Yeah.
Okay?
Awesome.
Any questions, class?
No, everyone is very quiet. Either they're not paying attention or they're waiting for a pop quiz at the end.
Okay.
Buttons.
Buttons.
Buttons. Okay.
All right.
A whole lot of stuff for you. Oh, yeah. No, no.
Do you care where I sew it on?
I do
You're
not.
just gonna cut it right off?
Yep.
Okay.
Right back in the bag where it was hiding.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna show on this, just so you know, if you've never used embroidery floss. This is, I keep all of my floss I don't throw any of it out unless it's like, 6 inches
Oh, I
long.
know, same. Yeah.
All right. So this is your DMC floss, and it looks like this is two strands.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a good amount to work with. It's not too bulky.
Yep. And I pulled out a couple needles. So if you've got a thin enough yarn or thin enough thread and big enough holes that you can pass a small darning needle through, you can totally use a small darning needle.
Yeah.
But if you can't, then a cross stitch needle.
Yeah, embroidery needle.
And
excuse me, sashiko needle.
Struggling to thread it, you can.
Yes.
Sometimes have the fun needle threaders. Sometimes
Little
we just have
needle
the little
threaders.
wire ones. Yeah.
We also have thread gloss, which is so nice to have. One tip for you: don't just test your needle. Test it with your yarn on it.
Yes.
Because your holes might accommodate the needle, but once there's yarn on it, it might be a little bit too big.
Yeah, because you will have that yarn basically folded over.
Yeah.
And also, you're going to want to, like we said, pass through more than once. So you want to make sure you can move that thread doubled over through that needle more than once.
I might need my glasses.
Do you want me to thread it for you?
No, I'm okay. Okay. And normally I tie a knot when I'm doing other embroidery, but for this, I do this other little thing. I don't know if you do this.
I don't know.
Okay, so don't tie a knot.
You are slightly out of frame.
I'm out of frame. That's right. Okay, so you don't need to tie a knot just yet. What I do is I place my button here, and then I am going to go in through the bottom, and I'm going to go back out through the other hole, and then I flip it over. Oh, sorry, it's a dark thread. I should have picked another one.
I know, I was just thinking the same thing. Like it's all dark on dark on.
Okay.
It's fine.
So hopefully you can see. Basically, I've threaded it through both holes, and I'm going to tie a little knot, double knot, so that it's not going anywhere. Okay.
So it's basically in place for you to continue stitching.
Yeah, and then I can set it aside if I need to or anything. Okay. So then I'm just going to go back in and out as many times as you need to, really.
Yeah. And you left a longish tail?
Yeah.
You left a tail on the backside? Yeah, okay.
Let's, yes, I left a tail so that I can, yeah.
Here, just cut it off. Just cut it off. It's a swatch. It'll be fine.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay. So I'm holding this tail. Emily's laughing
I'm
at me.
just catching myself doing that.
So I'm holding this tail kind of out of place so it's not going to tangle in what I'm doing.
Okay.
Okay. And it's really just feeling it out. So I'm gonna probably go, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Don't need to do a lot.
But like you want it to stay firmly attached. One is probably not enough.
No.
And if you have some of those like 4-hole buttons, I've seen some really cool tutorials on like Instagram.
Yeah.
Where people like stitch like a flower into it.
Yeah, or you can do an X instead of 2 lines.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay. Now I'm going to flip it back over, and I'm going to just tie another knot. And sometimes I do a couple.
Oh, yeah. We have already talked about how neurotic I am. I absolutely do more than a
Yeah,
couple.
so I do a double knot, and then I usually do another double knot. But, I mean, I don't need to do that twice on video.
You can do whatever you want.
But that's how I tie my buttons on, and I have never had any issues with that. How do you tie your buttons? Pretty much that way?
Yeah, sometimes I'll do the thing where you pull the thread forward and wrap it around the...
Yep, I can demonstrate that as
Yeah.
well. So what Emily sometimes does is you can go back up through your hole,
I'm gonna back up through the fabric. And
back
not
up
leave a
through the
hole.
fabric. Yes, thank you. So you're going to go back up through the fabric.
Yes. Thank you, Melanie. I see your comment. We will.
What's that?
About placing buttonholes. But we will.
Okay. And then you wrap, how many times do you wrap it?
A couple times, maybe once or twice. Not
Okay.
a whole lot because it starts to like really set the button up off the fabric,
Yeah.
which I think is the idea behind it. But
Yeah. And then you go back into the fabric.
Yep.
And then
then
tie that up.
yeah, do a little knot.
Yeah.
And some folks will, if you don't like the sight of the thread on the other side, I've seen people who are worried about like stability of their button band. They'll sew some ribbon along behind the buttons to sort of like keep that trapped, and then also
There we go.
add a little stability so that you're not pulling the fabric quite as much.
That is a great idea. So yeah, there you go. And I'll leave this on here so you can easily undo it.
Oh, thank you, Caitlin. Appreciate it.
Here we go.
Although clearly I do not have a problem with just snip. Wait before you disappear.
Okay.
We had a really great question from Melanie.
Yes, what's that?
Which we're gonna use my
Oh,
finished
yes.
sweater
Yeah,
for,
yeah.
which is like, how the heck do you figure out where to put your buttons?
Yeah.
On your finished sweater.
Okay.
So,
Let me
let's
hold this up here.
yeah.
All right, so you can see it pretty well.
Yes.
Okay.
She says, surprised.
Okay, so what I would do is get some locking stitch markers
Oh, yeah.
like these. And I would kind of match up where your hole is to the other side, and I would center it in the ribbing.
Yeah.
So your ribbing's about this wide, so I would put it about there. So
The nice thing is that because it's a 1x1 rib, you could just like count up.
oh yeah,
Be
you
like,
could
there's-
totally do that.
We did like eight stitches, so you can count up on that side if
Totally.
you want to. But I would do kind of what Caitlin's doing.
Yeah, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe move it over a little bit.
And then, as an alternative,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I will just line this up fully,
Oh, that's a
and
great
then
idea. Great
I will
idea.
stab in like so. Or at least I'll hold my finger there and then
Right.
stab in like so. However, it always looks a little bit off center when I do that, so I would take it with a grain of salt. It'll give you a good place to pop it, but you know, you may want to shift it so it's nice in the middle and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that would be, Melanie, does that answer your question, I hope, on where to put your buttons? That was one of the reasons I was like, dry, damn you, dry.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to show that.
Yes. And the other thing is, I mean, it tells you what size of buttons to use, but you can also like check and see if your buttons fit. I think that's also super helpful.
Yes.
Like this is a much larger button, so I don't want to stretch out your buttonhole, but usually I do a little test just to see
Yeah.
if it works.
Yes.
Like
if you
if it
haven't-
fits through the hole comfortably. You don't want to have to stretch it, and you don't want to have it popping off easily,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's so annoying
Yes.
when your buttons just
Yeah.
pop open like a
Yeah.
romance novel.
Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. Susie had a really great question, which
Yeah.
is like tips on how to clean up the buttonhole.
Clean up the buttonhole. I mean, you're gonna have buttons, but the buttons are gonna cover it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess to me, it's a handmade sweater.
Yeah.
And that's what's charming about it. You could, okay, if you didn't like this buttonhole, there's no reason why you can't do a different buttonhole.
Oh, 100%.
So on your swatch, you can try different buttonholes, see what you like.
That's really clever. I never thought about that. Adding that into your swatching process. That's way more thought than I usually give these things at like midnight when I'm casting on.
Yeah, you could totally do that. I don't see why not.
Yeah.
But I do
I
think
mean, like
that it's a handmade sweater.
Yep.
You know, and it's going to be appreciated for that.
Yeah. I mean, this is a perfect segue into our last section for the evening, which is wet blocking.
Okay.
if you want to come back up here.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we can talk about why one might wet block. Ooh, oh God. I got a
You
little
look
comf-
lovely.
Like, my hair's escaping. I need a haircut. Okay, so wet blocking, aka what I did Sunday night. And then, was waiting to finish for today. So, blocking is a really good idea. I think we both are firmly on the blocking side of the debate. I don't know if it's a strong debate. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the thing. I would block a sweater because I'm gonna be like I want to know how it's gonna fit when it's washed, right?
So blocking is basically like taking your knitting to the spa, and there's a couple different ways to do it. You can steam block. So if you've got a steam iron or one of those steamer handle thingies, you could pour a bunch of steam on your thing. Don't ever like iron directly on your knitting if you can avoid it, but like putting something over top, or I've done the whole like soak a pillowcase, put the pillowcase on the thing, iron the pillowcase, and that releases the steam, but I'm not actually putting my iron on my knits.
If you're in a real hurry to block and wear a sweater.
If you're on your way to a yarn festival and I've got one night in the hotel, maybe.
Yeah, a steamer works well. I have done that. I've had a sweater that had lace on it, and I wanted to wear the sweater immediately and didn't have time to block it, so I just hung it on my steam thing, and I just did the lace part.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So the things we do.
Yeah.
So you've got steam blocking. You've also got the old tried and true and does not work, which is lay it down and spritz it with water and hope. No. It doesn't work. No. But I think the most effective and like long lasting method of blocking would be to wet block. So that is to soak your garment in water for like at least 20 minutes. This won't really work on synthetics, but it will work on natural fibers, whether they be plant or animal. So you'll soak your garment. You can just do water, but if you are worried at all about like where your yarn has been, if you want to wash it while you're doing that, if you've got like if it's like fresh from the barn, or if you took it on the bus every day, you get bus air on it. It's
nice to get it clean because your hands have been working with it and the oil's on your hands.
Yeah. So use a wash that's suitable for your garment. You don't want something that's going to erode the protein fibers in, say, like a wool sweater. Yeah. So at the shop we've got Soak
and Eucalyptus.
Yes.
Yeah, and those are both animal fiber or natural fiber.
Yeah, I also
protein fiber, basically, like
safe.
Silk, wool, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you may also see them in like lingerie shops for gentle hand washing and stuff. The idea is that or if you have cats, yes, Melody, or if you have cats, and so the idea is that you don't really have to rinse them very vigorously or at all, which is great because the less you disturb your knitted garment while it's in the water, the better. Yeah.
And so I usually just use like room temperature water.
Same. Big bowl or your sink.
Yeah, I've got a really handy laundry tub.
Okay.
I'll just show
you. And I use like the same bowl I make cakes with.
This is like the handiest thing.
Oh yeah, I have one of those. Oh, I should use that.
Okay. I bought this probably at the dollar store.
Yes, because that's where I bought mine.
It fits 2 sweaters.
Oh.
It fits 2 sweaters snug.
Yeah.
Or like 3 shawls.
Nice.
I use it to feed my spider.
Okay. Which I still have not met yet because I'm not a spider person.
Yeah. So room temperature water, a capful or a few drops of Eucalyptus.
Depending on how big a thing you make.
Let it soak for 20 minutes, half an hour. And then the tricky bit is
removing the water.
Squeezing the water out gently. You don't want to wring it. You don't want to agitate it.
Like press.
So I usually kind of hold the sweater over the basin and I just kind of squeeze the water out as much as I can. And then I bring it over to my kitchen table where I've laid out a nice fluffy towel.
Yes.
Lay it out, roll it up, and again, squeeze the heck out of it. Yep. So like roll it like a burrito and then roll it like a snail.
Oh, like a cinnamon bun?
Yeah, like a cinnamon bun, and then like
Yeah.
you want to squeeze all the water out.
Yeah. Because you just kind of want it to be like damp. You want it to be saturated and damp. So that's why you soak it for a while and then you squeeze all the water out. Because you want that water to permeate the whole thing.
Yeah, and if you do any squeezing or wringing, or if you do any wringing or twisting, it can felt and damage your fibers.
Or just distort your fabric, stretch out a sleeve or something like that. And once you have squeezed the ever-loving out of it, you can then lay it out on a water-happy surface because it will still be damp.
Yeah.
So I have puzzle piece mats. You can get it like...
The foam mats.
Yeah, they're, I don't know, get them at Canadian Tire.
Yeah.
Maybe even the dollar store these days, Walmart, whatever. Lay them out, and you don't really have to pin this one. I just laid it flat.
Yeah.
I did make sure when I had it out on my mats to line up so that my buttons bands kind of like overlapped. The way that they were going to sit, I made sure that my bottom edge of my sweater was nice and flat. I had the sleeves nice. I made sure the back neck was flat as well. And so you just want to like make it look like a Hollywood sweater.
Yeah, just kind of like massage it into place.
Because the way that it is oriented is kind of how it's going to dry, which is why when we like aggressively wet block at something and we pin it out, it keeps that shape.
Yeah.
So just make sure it's nice and happy and lying flat.
Yeah, and I mean, this won't take a lot of, it won't require a lot of fiddling because there's no lace or anything to kind of.
Yes.
When-
yeah. And if you've already done your buttons, like I didn't, then you could just button your sweater and then that's a lot easier than what I did. And then just let it dry. I put a fan on mine. Yeah. You know, be if you've never wet blocked something, be aware that cats have a tendency to like to sit
I
on
was
your
just
stuff.
gonna say, Melanie, your cat might like to
So just, you know, be
crawl
careful.
on it. And so Susie says my buttonholes are not obvious. I'm not sure if that's a question or.
I think that was when we were talking about the buttonholes. So, okay, that's good.
There's things happening in my kitchen.
I think that's a sign that if nobody, does anyone have any last burning questions before we sign off? Otherwise, I think we may have covered a sweater.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good yes.
Yeah.
Melanie blocks in a spare bedroom.
Yeah.
Closes the door.
Yeah. I put my puzzle mat thing on a laundry rack, which I think it's too rickety for him to want to climb on.
Yeah. He just gets a little bit nervous. Okay.
And next Cal.
Yeah.
So Katie has some say in these things.
Katie is basically dictating what she wants to learn how to make.
Yeah.
And then we do classes and Cals to accommodate so that she can learn at the pace that she desires.
I mean, we tease, but Katie wants to make socks.
Katie does want to make socks. And there's a couple other things I think we've been throwing around. Timing wise, it probably won't be until after the holiday season.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's quite busy in the shop and it's not exactly the free and plentiful time for makers.
No.
We're all rushing to make gifts for people.
The next next sew along that's happening is the Harrelson bag.
Yeah.
So Michelle is working on that one. I believe it starts next week.
Yes, it does. I
I
looked
want
it
to
up.
say it's like Tuesday, October 10th, and that's going to also go for 4 weeks probably. Yep. So hopefully people can join in with that if you're also sewers.
If you haven't, if you're burning for more Emily and Caitlin content, oh god, you can always go back and watch some of our other Cals from the last year. This is our 4th one. And also, if you've been thinking about crochet, there are some really awesome crochet videos on the channel hosted by the wonderful Annie. And if you've been wanting to hop on the crochet train, that might be fun as well if you're a fibery person.
Yeah, super fun.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some really nice beginner squares that she does.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the very last thing that we will plug is that the super exciting pattern that we talked about last week is on the website.
Yeah.
Now.
It's our sock pattern. So last year we did a sock pattern inspired by a quilt motif. And this year we wanted to kind of pick up on that again. So we did an Irish chain quilt, which is kind of like a lattice kind of a pattern. It's a really easy, in terms of color work,
Yeah.
it's very easy to follow, like
Yeah.
nothing super complicated.
Yeah.
It's only 2 colors. And it's just on the cuff of the sock. And that's a free download on our website, or if you're on Ravelry, you can also download it there for free.
Yeah.
And if you do download it and knit it, we would love to see your socks.
And
yeah, it's so exciting.
have we announced the cast on party? We have announced.
Yeah,
The cast
so
on
we
party.
mentioned it last week. So
We now know the date for sure.
I was right. It's October 14th.
Yes.
And that is a Saturday.
Yeah.
I said it and then I was like, wait a minute, that seems late.
No, that's it.
But no, that gives people time to download the pattern, decide what yarn they want, wind it
Yeah.
into a ball, get your contrast
Yeah.
color, all that kind of
recover
stuff.
from this weekend's turkey.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's going to be a cast on party in the store. It's going to be, I think Beatrice is hosting it, and she is also going to knit the socks. She knit last year's socks also. And there will be, I think, apple cider, like some treats and stuff. And I think hopefully I'm going to make it there for a little bit. I know we have a couple things going on that day. But I will definitely stop by.
I'm gonna try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can remember, I gotta put it in my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see you then.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely see you guys at the next knit along.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, that's a really great way to find out about stuff first.
Mm-hmm.
And then also if you follow us on social media, which
Yeah.
are things that I don't know the names of, but you can find them if you go to the website.
Yeah, and send us pictures of your sweaters.
Please
I really,
do.
really want to see your
Yes.
works in progress or your finished sweaters. Like I'm one of the people who does our Instagram, so it's always nice to see those pictures and then share them so we can give you like a high five.
Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
awesome.
Well, thank you, Susie. We're so
Thank
happy you joined us
you.
again.
Yeah,
You guys have yourself a wonderful week. Good luck with the rest of your sweaters.
awesome.
And-
Bye.